The Red Sea crisis, how one shipping choke point is shaking the world economy now. We head to the Red Sea, once a vital artery of international commerce, now a high-risk war zone. The Houthi rebels, long active in Yemen's civil conflict, have been targeting ships for months. But this time, something changed. People have been killed. For years, experts declared the age of piracy over, that missile strikes on commercial vessels were a thing of the past. They were wrong. In the 21st century, it's not cannonballs or mutiny that threaten global trade, but precision-guided missiles, Iranian-backed drones, and a narrow stretch of water now considered the most dangerous on the planet. Behind every container ship stalled offshore, behind every empty shelf in Europe, behind every price spike in the United States, lies a hidden conflict, a war waged not just with bombs, but with economic disruption on a global scale. The bombs that started it all began in late 2023. The Houthi armed militia backed by Iran declared war on international shipping. They claimed to be targeting Israeli-affiliated vessels in retaliation for the war in Gaza, but the reality was far messier. Their missiles struck a wide range of civilian vessels, Greek oil tankers, Japanese container ships, Chinese carriers, even a Bangladeshi freighter hauling grain. These were not military targets, they were cargo ships, often crewed by civilians. And in this new kind of asymmetric warfare, they became human shields in a geopolitical proxy war. In just a few months, over 100 attacks were recorded. Ships were burned, sunk, or disappeared without explanation. By early 2025, it became undeniable. This wasn't just a regional skirmish, it was a full-blown disruption of the global supply chain. The most valuable body of water on Earth, the Red Sea, is not just a sea, it's the aquatic backbone connecting two hemispheres. It links the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea, Asia to Europe, and by extension, Asia to the global West. About 15% of all global trade passes through this corridor via the Suez Canal. But to reach the Suez, ships must first pass through the al-Mandab Strait just off the coast of Yemen. And now, thanks to the Houthis, that crucial choke point is under siege. Major shipping lines didn't wait to see what would happen next. One by one, the titans of maritime logistics, Maersk MSC, Hapag-Lloyd CMACG, began pulling vessels from the Red Sea. By January, traffic through the Suez Canal had collapsed by more than 60%. Egypt, which operates the canal and collects roughly $10 billion a year in tolls, watched as the daily average of 80 ships dropped to just 30. Port Said saw its docks go quiet. Empty berths became a symbol of a global rerouting that would have massive consequences. The long detour around Africa with the Red Sea too dangerous, shipping companies sought a costly alternative, rerouting vessels around the Cape of Good Hope, the southern tip of Africa. The consequences were immediate. Each rerouted trip added more than 4,000 miles of travel. Transit times stretched by 10 to 14 days. Fuel costs surged. Schedules buckled under the pressure. And the delays were devastating. Electronics expected in European markets in February didn't arrive until March. Car parts bound for Detroit were adrift near Madagascar. Even humanitarian shipments, vaccines, food aid, water filtration equipment, were delayed or diverted. Life-saving cargo lost precious time. This wasn't just a shipping disruption, it was a full-blown economic shockwave. The economic chain reaction as delays mounted, ocean freight rates began to skyrocket. Spot container prices on Asia-Europe routes more than doubled. War risk insurance premiums, already inflated, tripled for any vessel daring to enter the Red Sea. Some insurers pulled out entirely. The few remaining ships in the area were escorted by military vessels from the US, UK, and France, but even warships couldn't guarantee safety. A Liberian-flagged fuel tanker was struck by a missile, killing 3 crew members. Another missile hit a container ship hauling auto parts to Spain. The message was clear. There was no safe passage. The retailers felt the blow. Retailers felt the first tremors. Adidas, IKEA, Samsung, and Target all reported significant delays in spring inventory shipments. Footwear factories in Vietnam watched helplessly as containers full of shoes sat offshore stranded without a delivery timeline. Auto manufacturers, already weakened by semiconductor shortages, were forced to pause production again. Suzuki, Toyota all announced temporary plant shutdowns across Europe and the Middle East. Their parts were stuck somewhere in the Indian Ocean. And the effects quickly trickled down to consumers. 2-day shipping became 5-day shipping. Online retailers revised their delivery estimates. Prices crept up on everyday items, microwaves, coffee makers, televisions, laptops. In Europe, grocery chains issued warnings about potential shortages of tropical fruit and spices imported from East Africa and Southeast Asia. In the US, major retailers expressed concern about late spring merchandise. The bottleneck was now impossible to ignore. Even energy isn't immune. The crisis wasn't limited to manufactured goods. British Petroleum and Shell began rerouting oil tankers around Africa. Liquefied natural gas shipments from Qatar, one of the world's largest exporters, took the long route to Italy and Spain. What was once a 9-day trip became a 23-day voyage. As fuel and shipping costs rose, energy providers passed on the burden to consumers. Electricity bills spiked across southern Europe. Heating costs increased. Governments scrambled to shield low-income households from the rising energy burden. Ports and warehouses. Backlog at sea soon became chaos on land. Ports in Tangier, Algeciras, and Rotterdam struggled to absorb the redirected traffic. Crews worked overtime. Congestion spread. Warehouses ran out of space. Containers piled up on docks, awaiting customs clearance or inland transportation. Chassis shortages and rail bottlenecks became the new norm. Companies scrambled to lease extra containers. Maersk alone ordered 125,000 new units. Even air freight saw a spike. Desperate businesses paid premium prices to get goods moving fast. Rail routes across Central Asia hit their highest utilization rates since the pandemic, but none of these alternatives could match the scale of ocean freight. The International Maritime Organization conceded. In the short term, there is no scalable substitute for the Red Sea. The Egyptian dilemma amid the chaos. Egypt faced its own reckoning. The Suez Canal provides roughly $10 billion annually in toll revenue, vital for a country drowning in debt and facing rising food import costs. With ship traffic down by more than 60%, that income has evaporated. Egypt's government is now seeking emergency loans to cover the shortfall. The immediate crisis of the canal's disruption may have passed, but the economic damage continues. Analysts estimate the cost of the Suez disruption peaked at around $10 billion a day during the worst moments. The Houthi strategy and its success. The Houthi playbook is now evident hand. It's working by terrorizing one maritime corridor. They've disrupted global commerce, raised insurance premiums to unsustainable levels, and forced powerful nations to react. Despite dozens of Western airstrikes targeting radar stations, drone depots, and missile sites, the attacks continue. Analysts warn, the Houthis don't need to hit every ship, they only need to create fear. Make shipping executives think twice. And in that, they've succeeded. Many carriers have now pledged to avoid the Red Sea for the rest of the year, if not longer. Globalization rethought. The longer this persists, the clearer it becomes. The post-pandemic economic recovery is unraveling. Investors, I have noticed, shipping stocks soared. Insurance firms adjusted profit forecasts. Airlines introduced new surcharges. Major consumer brands revised earnings downward. Supply chain executives across the globe are confronting a hard truth: global trade, as we knew it, may not return. What comes next? There are two possible futures. In the best-case scenario, diplomacy prevails. A ceasefire is negotiated. The Houthis agree to stop targeting ships. International naval patrols secure temporary corridors. Shipping resumes, rates stabilize, and global markets breathe a cautious sigh of relief. But in the worst-case scenario, the attacks continue. Retaliatory strikes escalate. Iran becomes more deeply involved. Israeli shipping lanes come under fire. Insurance becomes unobtainable. The Red Sea remains a no-go zone permanently. Global trade is forced to redraw its maps. And many experts believe we're already in that second scenario. They warn that companies will abandon traditional trade routes, that they'll invest in redundancy over efficiency, that the just-in-time logistics model, the backbone of globalization, will be replaced by just-in-case resilience, a system where stability, not cost, becomes the top priority. As one European shipping executive told Bloomberg, "We've now learned the hard way that one rebel group with a handful of drones can cost the global economy billions. That changes everything." Indeed.
Turning companies into political collateral. The bottom